Hello, beautiful people. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do one of the most hard to find topics about Flutter. Today we are going to route our Google Maps. So, probably it's going to take two videos because there is a lot of things we have to cover. But just giving you a small overview of what are we going to do. First of all, you're going to be able to get the device location, and here at the top we have the default location, the name, my current location. And if I tap on destination, let me write, and don't worry, we will implement autocomplete afterwards. There's no problem. For example, I can put a location and hit. And about this now, don't worry, this is my device problem. For you, you will see something like go or something. And when you hit this, after some times, we are going to get the route, and you can just zoom out, and just like that, you have a route from A to B, and this is the location we want to go. And if you tap on that, you have Orion Mall, go here, and probably we're going to add more information about this. Now, just telling you guys that be ready. I'm making a complete course on Udemy about this topic, and I'm going to teach you how to make a full-time app, a real-time. I'm going to show you how to display the mileage, the time you're going to take from A to B, and to estimate the amount you are going to take. That was for the user app and both for the driver app. So you'll be waiting for that, and I'll be giving you free vouchers once the course is out. Without talking too much, welcome to the channel, and let's go do it. So, beautiful people, welcome back to the course. And here is where we left off, and as you can see, we still have a lot of things to do, but okay, now let's start. Let's make this quick. And the very first thing I will want to do is we can go and open our main, and let's remove this, the back banner. So just put false into that. Okay. And the second thing we will want to do now is removing this marker, because we're not going to use this button specifically to add the marker, so we can just remove, and here we have it. Now we can go back on full screen. I don't want to take too much time just working on our UI, so I made some snippets so that I can just go reference. For example, for the two text buttons, I have these two. Let me just copy them from here and paste it into our code, and then I will explain how they work, just to save us some time and to focus on the real goal of today's lecture. So we can just paste them here like that, and of course we still have to define the controllers for them, but for now I'll just comment on it. And for the colors, instead of blue, I'm going black. I'm going to use black here. Don't worry, I will explain to you this. I'm just doing this to save us some time. So this is what we have now. We have our pickup location, and finally let me set black on our destination as well, and then I will explain you how to floating text boxes work. Black in here as well, and black in here. Okay, perfect. Let me put this on full screen now, and we will come back to the code afterwards, to the mobile view. So what we have here, or how are we making those float? We have some position widgets, and I set the top one. I'm talking about the first text field to top 50, right 15, left 15, to make sure it's going to be centered. It's going to be the same. It's going to have the same distance for left and right. And inside of that we have a container, and the height of the container is 50, and the width is infinity, meaning this container will take all of this white space in here. And then we have the border decoration. We have the radius to 3. You can increment this if you want. The color to white, of course. And then we have our box shadow, which provides us with this shadow down here. And you can change these definitions and the numbers of the shadows the way you like. And then we have here our text field, of course, which is this in here. And finally we have down here, let me put this back on full screen. So we have our text field with the cursor black. When you click on the text field, the cursor is going to be black. And for the decoration, we have our icon of the text field, and we are returning a container margin of 20 and 5 with 1010, and the child is the icon location on. And these numbers, I just did some testing, and those happen to be the numbers which are going to put our icons centered in relation to the text here. So I believe you guys don't have any problem doing this, and anyways I'm going to give the source code in the description, but this is it. Is all we need. Now let's start with the real work. First of all, the dependencies we are going to need here, I have them on my snip. I have on my snippet, and these 3 dependencies, and I'm going to show you guys how you're going to get them. I'm just doing this to spare some time. You just come down here and paste them in. So we have the Google Map services, we have the geolocator, and I have the geolocator any because I was having some dependencies conflicting problem, but afterwards we're going to fix this. And we have our HTTP. If you don't know how or where to get, I will provide this in a link, but anyways you can just open Google and just write Flutter geolocator, for example, and here you just have to click, and you're going to get the plugin, and you're going to install. So for these 3 plugins, just have in mind you need Google Maps Web Services. We are not going to use this on this video, but in the future we may. You have the geolocator, and we have the HTTP. So I will give you this on these specific versions, or you can just go and Google them, and then run a package get. Most likely you may or may not, but let's see if we're going to run into any kind of issues here, and then I'll show you how to fix. So let's rerun the app. I will stop, and I will run the app from scratch. Okay. For this particular video, we are going to be getting, okay, you're probably going to get this problem. That's why I decided to stop the app and run it again. You're going to get this problem because of the dependencies you're using. But to fix this issue is not that hard, but you need, and I have on my notes as well, and don't worry, I'll provide the link for this document. You need to paste these bits of code here. To fix the conflict, and what you're going to do is you're going to open Android and you're going to build Gradle. Make sure it's build Gradle inside of Android, and then you just go down to dependencies, and down here you paste the code. You don't have to understand, this is not Flutter related, you just have to copy and paste it and run the app again, and now you may encounter no issues. And I will provide this code as well, don't worry. Let us close this, we have a lot of things open. So while our app is running, there's something I want to show you, which is this. To get our routes, I'm going to use the Google Maps API. You probably have the Google Maps API by now, and this is the documentation. Okay, so you'll use this link, and at the end you're going to place your API key. You probably have it now as well, and this is the type of response you're going to get from that request. I actually went ahead and I did a request. This is the response you are going to get from that request. This may look scary at the beginning, and you don't need all of this information, we just need something in specific. But to make our lives easier, I usually just copy this result and I open online JSON parser, and it allows me to traverse our JSON file easily to know what's inside of what. For now, inside of this response, long response, the only thing I want is this, our overview, polyline, and the points. So another thing I want to explain you guys is when you do a request, you are not going to get the specific points in terms of latitude and longitude to draw the points on your map, but you're going to get this string encoded polyline. And what you have to do after that is to decode this long string, and Google provided an algorithm to do that, and I'm not going to go through it because it's out of our scope. And when you decode this string, you're going to get a list of values, double values containing latitude and longitude. Okay, and if you didn't understand it now, don't worry, you will understand that when we go through the code. I have the function built, and I didn't create this function. As I told you, the algorithm for the function is available, so you can just go and copy the function. Let me just go back to our project, and the last part of copy and paste we are going to need to do on today's video is this part. I have here, let me go back to my test project, and this is the function we need. Okay, so let's just copy this, and I will provide this function as well, and I'll go back to our project and I will paste it somewhere. I'll paste that method somewhere down here. So this method is based on the algorithm provided by Google to decode that long string into list of latitude and longitude values. So this is what we're getting. We call the function decode poly, which is decoding the poly line. We're going to get the string called poly, which is that long string I showed you from the HTTP request. And from that string, we are going to perform some operations. This is related to the algorithm. And at the end, we are going to return a list containing latitude and longitude points. Okay, so all of the copying and pasting we had to do is done, and this is the last part. From here now we are on our own. Okay, so with that being said, let us start actually working on building our routes. Okay, let's go ahead and we will create a file, and this Dart file I will call the folder requests / Google Maps requests. And here we have it. And again, this is just a name I picked to name this specific file, but you can of course name it the way you want, or the name you think is suitable for you to remember it afterwards. So after you do that, we'll create a class in here. Let me just zoom. And we're going to call this class Google Maps services. So a lot of the functions or services related to our Google Maps are going to be handled inside of this class. Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be a class, not supposed to be a class, not a function. So a lot of our services are going to be handled in here. And on the next videos, we are going to implement this using block pattern or RX Dart. I'm not sure, but now to make it simple and easy for you guys to understand, we'll just go with the default way of doing that. So for now, we'll come back to this file, but for now, there are some basic things we will need to do. And the very first thing is to get the user location when the app is open. That's the first thing we will want to do now. And to make that possible, there is some editing that we are going to do on the code we had from our previous video. And the first thing we're going to do is, let me erase this, our initial position, and here I'm going to call it lat and LNG for latitude and longitude. This is our initial position. Okay, perfect. So now we don't define this at the very start. It's a variable now. We can just assign any value we want to assign to it afterwards. Okay, so the other thing we may need to do here is to import some packages. And let's import, we want geolocator. So this is the first package we are going to import, and we are going to use this package heavily. Okay, and another one we may need to import is the one we created. We started defining, but we didn't really finish. Our requests, then we have map, Google Map requests, Let's go back to our map and start defining something. So down to our map, we are going to create some variables, and Google Map Services, we created this variable, Google Map Services. Okay, and for now we will create another set here, but now we want this to be polyline, the type of the set, and we can go ahead and call this polylines is equal to, and if you don't know what are polylines are basically the lines that are going to be drawn to depict the route from point to another point. Okay, so let us now take this time and go ahead and create text editing controllers for our field. We can location controller, which is going to take the user current location, and we'll create the second one, which is going to take the destination, of course. Okay, perfect. Now let us override our initial state, and don't forget to call the super.init initial state, and here we'll just put get user location. This is a method we are creating, but still have to define it. So here we have the method that's going to get the user current location, and we may need to put this method as asynchronous. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use something called position. Position is going to be a weight because we're dealing with a future, so we want to use geolocator. So for the geolocator, we want to get current position, and there is a parameter here, desired accuracy, and the accuracy we want to give is location accuracy high. And if you go and read the documentation, let me go here, you have this information on the documentation for the geolocator, and you can come here and you can get how to get user location, and this is the code, desired accuracy high, and you have different parameters. You can go ahead and read the documentation for that. So we have here that we want our desired accuracy to be high, and then we will create a list of something called Placemark. This is inside the geolocator package as well, and we're going to create a variable called Placemark, and we want to await from the geolocator. Okay. Now we want to get Placemark from coordinates. Okay. And here we have position dot latitude, and finally we're going to get position dot longitude. So what's happening in here is basically we are getting the current position of the device with a high accuracy, and then we are creating a place mark, and what we're doing is we are setting geolocator to get the position from coordinates, and we are giving the position latitude and longitude. That's all we are doing in here. And to finalize our first method, we are going to use a set state, and we want the initial position to be equal to latitude and longitude, and in here we will set position dot latitude and position dot longitude, and this is going to be the map initial position as well. And finally we will define our location controller text to be equal to place mark. Since is a list, we want the first element 0 name, which is going to convert the position into address. Okay, and now we will go back in here to our text field, and we will set this. So explaining you guys again what's going to happen here is, on our initial state we are going to be calling this get location, and first we are going to get the position with high accuracy, and then we are going to create a place mark which is going to take the coordinates and then is going to translate those coordinates into address, and we are going to look to assign that to our location controller. And what happens, let me try to do this and go back to reloading our app. Okay, don't worry about this error. I know what's happening and how can we fix it. It's fixed. If I refresh again, and I have my current location in here, if I refresh again, see what's going to happen again. If I refresh it again, this is going to happen, and then things are going back to normal. What's happening? Let me go back on full screen. And what are we going to do in here is, if you see here at the beginning, our initial position is null, and our map is trying to be shown on a null initial position. That's creating that error. So to fix this, we will do something very easy. Let's use a conditional operator, and we are going to say initial position is equal to null, and if the initial position is in fact equal to null, we are going to return a container, and if it's not equal to null, we're going to return a step. And for the container, we're going to give alignment and then alignment dot center. And then for the child, we are going to provide here center widget to make sure it's centered. And for the child of the center widget, we want a circular progress bar indicator. Okay, perfect. Now, if I go ahead and I do this, you'll see what happens. You see? Now we just have that progress bar indicator and have this. Okay, perfect. So, beautiful people, now what do we have to do? Let us go and start working with how we're going to deal with our Google requests. Now here, what do we have? What do we want to do? What's our goal here? Our main focus in here is to to provide that request, and we are going to give back that string, which is the encoded polyline, and then it's going to be converted from the encoded polyline to points. Okay, first, to make this clear, let's before we work with this, there's a point I still have to show you guys. We have our function here, our algorithm from Google, that's going to return a list of values. But this algorithm is going to return a list of double elements, and if we try to go ahead and place this on our map, we are going to have an error because we want a list of objects of type latitude and longitude. Okay, so before we go there, and don't worry, afterwards we are going to separate these functions into a different file. Now I'm just doing this for simplicity purpose. We need a list, because if you want to draw on the map, our list must be of the type latitude and longitude. And we are going to call this function convert to lat.lng. Okay, and what are we going to take from this function? We are going to take a list of points, and these points are going to be returned from the code poly function. And if you're not understanding yet, don't worry, just stick here with me and everything will make sense. Okay, in here, inside of our function, or inside of the function we're creating, I can comment this method will convert list of doubles into lat.lng. Okay, and how are we going to do this? First, let's create a list in here of the type latitude and longitude, and we can call this result, for example. And at the beginning, result must be assigned to something, or result is empty at the beginning. Okay, now in here we can use a for loop. Int I is equal to 0. I is smaller than point length, and finally we have I plus plus. So but to make you guys understand what's going to happen here, I may need to go to the and here at the browser, let's try to write dart pad, and here we have it. We have our dart pad. So to make sure you guys understand what's going to happen over there, we'll have to take 2 minutes to explain you what that function does. Here we have the function, the deploy function, the decode function, and what's happening? We imported that Dart input output, perfect, and we have our main method, and in our main method we have z, and this is one of the encoded values of our polyline. Okay, and what's going to happen in here is that we are passing this string inside of the function, the same way we are doing here on our project, Flutter project. So we are passing this a as a string. This is the string. This operation is done, and a list is going to be returned from that. If I run this code, this is the same function we have, by the way. If I run this code, we are going to get this. This is a list of doubles, and this is what happens on our Flutter code. What are we going to get? We are going to provide here a string of values or encoded polyline, and we are going to get a list of double elements. Okay, so but if we try to plot this list on our map, it's not going to be possible, because we need to have these values as objects of the type latitude and longitude. But if you pay attention to the list, we always have even number of elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we can have 2, 8, 4, but never an odd number. Why? Because the first number here is latitude and the second is longitude. This is 1 point, and then we have latitude and we have longitude. This is another point, and finally we have latitude here and longitude here. So here we have 3 points. So I explained to you guys what's going to happen with this function. So what happened? How can we convert that list of doubles into latitude and longitude values? Well, to do that, we are going to do this. If I modulus 2 is equal to 0, and this happens when the number is even, we are going to do result add latitude and longitude values, position points, not position, points I minus 1, and longitude is going to be equal to point I. And here must not be equal to 9. And now afterwards, of course, we have to return result. And what's happening here, guys, let me take because I believe this may, I don't know, probably it's kind of complicated, but what's happening, as you saw, we have here this decode poly function, which is going to return a list of doubles. So let me explain you here to make sure you understand what's happening. I will take some time to explain it to you guys. So let's suppose this is the list that's going to be returned from let me put random double values here, and this is the list that's going to be returned from our decode function. Okay, so we have a random list of double values. And if you know, in a list, what matters is the index. So down here I will represent the index of these elements. So this element is the element at the index 0, and then we have this at the index 1, and then we have this at the index 2, and then we have this at the index 3, and we have this index 4, index 5, index 6. So here are the indexes of our elements. So what are we doing with this function we create here? If you see, these two elements will make up a pair. These two elements, the latitude and longitude is a single point. Latitude, longitude, single point. Latitude, longitude, single point. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, we have one missing here. And I'm just drawing this to make sure you guys understand what's happening here. 7. So we need 2 points, or 2 coordinates, latitude and longitude, to form a single point. So 1, 2 coordinates form 1 point, 1, 2 coordinates form 1 point, 1, 2 coordinates form 1 point, and these 2 coordinates form 1 point. So here we have 3 points, right, of latitude and longitude. We cannot pass these values, this list, to our map because it's not going to recognize these singular points. We have to pass latitude and longitude objects. So what are we doing inside of our if statement? First, we are doing the following. We are checking if I modulus 2 is not equal to 0. At the first index, index 0, the modulus 2 is going to be equal to 0, so nothing will be done. At the second index, which is 1, the modulus is not going to be equal to 0. So when the modulus is not equal to 0 means that that's the last coordinate of that particular point. So what we're doing after that is we are creating a latitude and longitude value. We are taking the previous point, in this case we are taking the point 0, assigning it to the latitude, and we are taking the current point of I, which is 1, this one, and this is going to be our longitude. And like that we have a singular point with both coordinates, latitude and longitude, and we are going to insert that inside of our results. Guys, I think I already spoke too much on this video, and we are going to wrap everything up on our next video. And if you didn't understand, please you can leave comments and make sure you go through the code again and again. And if I didn't explain something correctly or easily, please ask me about that, and I'll be sure to explain you guys to make sure you guys understand. So the point where we actually draw the polylines is going to be our next video, because this one is already too long. So thank you very much guys for watching. See you on the next one.